Why did I do this?
Patrick muttered to himself as he took out his phone and checked the time. It was 8:04 p.m. "What are you crying about?" said Dave with a condescending grin as he closed the warehouse door and scanned his employee card.
You're late.
Complained Patrick. "Not everyone can live 4 miles from work, asshole," Dave said sarcastically. The two had volunteered to stay overnight at the warehouse and count inventory. Dave never minded helping out when it was needed, but Patrick was never one to go out of his way. "Even then, I'm surprised you volunteered," sneered Dave.
I could use the overtime.
Patrick said reluctantly. Patrick couldn't help but think of all the things he would rather be doing at this point. Hell, doing nothing sounded better than this shit, he thought to himself. They both had half of the warehouse to count. Each of them had to start at opposite ends of the building and work their way to the middle. When they were finished, they had to switch count sheets and count each other's until a number was agreed on. It wasn't very strenuous work, but it was tedious. The warehouse was vast, so they thought it best to use walkie-talkies to communicate any issues. They grabbed their count sheets and went to their corresponding ends of the building. What was once a noise-laden work floor was now an eerily silent stretch of metal and concrete. The occasional gust of cold winter wind would rattle the rolling dock doors, sending the sound of shaking metal echoing through the warehouse. "Radio check." Dave's voice sounded over Patrick's walkie.
Fuck you.
Patrick replied.
Ha ha.
Dave laughed sarcastically. "Hey, I know you like listening to music, but make sure to keep one ear open for the walkie."
Yeah, whatever.
Patrick put his walkie on his belt and stuck both earbuds in his ears, disregarding Dave's request. They had been working for about an hour when Dave's radio started acting strange. It would beep every few minutes, as if someone had been talking, but no sound came through, just a beep. After about 10 minutes of this, Dave figured it had to be Patrick messing around. He grabbed his radio from his belt and pressed the talk button. "Patrick, come in." No answer. "Patrick, I know you keep pressing the damn button. Where are you?" Dave was growing impatient. No answer. "All right, asshole. Just wait till I find you." Dave walked across the barren warehouse, checking every aisle. Finally, he peered around one and spotted him. "Patrick!" he yelled, walking toward him. Patrick showed no signs of hearing him. "Hey, asshole!" Annoyed, David walked up to Patrick and gave him a shove on his shoulder.
Hey, what the hell, man?
Patrick exclaimed while removing his headphones. "Could you quit fucking with the radio?" Dave said with disdain.
I'm not. I haven't touched my radio.
Patrick said adamantly. "Then why does mine keep going off?" Dave asked, not believing a word.
How should I know? It's probably fucked up. Go switch it out.
Patrick said, putting his earbuds back in. Dave pulled the earbud out of Patrick's left ear. "I thought I told you to leave one out so you could hear the walkie."
Fine. Whatever.
Dave walked away back toward the office. Patrick had started at the far end of the building, so he had to walk farther than before. When he got to the office, he placed his radio on the charger and grabbed another one. He turned it on with the knob on the top and pressed the talk button. "Radio check," he said.
You're good.
Patrick said in reply. Dave made his way back to where he was working and continued where he left off. He had been working for another half hour or so when it happened again. Another beep. This time his patience was very thin. He grabbed it without hesitation, pressed the talk button, and yelled, "I knew you were fucking with me."
What?
Patrick said in reply. "You keep pressing the damn talk button. This shit isn't funny, Patrick."
I haven't touched it.
Patrick replied, feeling wrongly accused. Dave never heard those words. The next sound Dave heard was almost like a faint music. It sounded like a music box, but it was so faint that Dave had to put the walkie up to his ear to hear it. The chiming notes seemed to get louder. They were suddenly interrupted by a loud and sudden static. Dave yanked it from his ear and winced in pain. The static stopped suddenly, and at the same time, every light in the warehouse went out. Dave reached for his pocket. Damn, he thought. He had left his phone charging in the office at the other end of the warehouse. He shakingly put the radio to his face and pressed the talk button. "Patrick, you there?" No response. "Patrick, where are you?" Again, no response. He lowered the radio. Shit. He started walking slowly with his arms stretched forward in what he assumed was the direction of the office. The warehouse was pitch black. You could get around just as easily with your eyes closed. He was pretty sure of where to walk, but he needed to be careful. Once he felt one of the aisle racks, he used each one as a guide. After walking for what seemed like an hour, he started hearing a strange sound. It was like a hum. He then realized it was coming from down the aisle he was approaching. He turned down that aisle, and still couldn't see a damn thing, and the noise was getting louder. He finally recognized what the noise was. It was the rumbling of a forklift engine. It couldn't have been more than 30 feet from him at that point. He could feel the heat coming from the exhaust, so it had to be facing away from him. He pulled out his radio. "Patrick?" He waited. No answer. "Damn it, Patrick, say something!" A sound came out of his radio, but it definitely wasn't the sound he was waiting for. It was that damn music again. It sounded much clearer this time. It was the chiming of a music box. The radio then made a loud static noise and fell silent. What the fuck, he thought to himself. He continued walking toward the rumbling forklift with his arms outstretched. He didn't walk far before he felt his hand touch solid metal. What is this doing right here? He thought. He felt his way around to the side of the forklift and remembered that it had headlights. Excited to finally not be trapped in complete darkness, he reached over and turned the headlights on. Instead of comfort meeting him with open arms, he was met by sheer terror that hit him with a closed fist. Sitting directly in front of the forklift was a pool of blood. He looked in horror as he backed away. Then suddenly he paused. At the top of his peripheral vision, something caught his eye. He was terrified to look, but nevertheless he glanced up. What was once a blur in his peripheral vision was now clear in his direct line of sight. It was Patrick. He was hanging by a fork belonging to the forklift. The fork had impaled Patrick through his mouth and came out the back of his head. He was suspended some 20 feet in the air by it. Dave was petrified. Unable to move, he watched in terror as Patrick's head was no longer able to support the weight of his body. The echoing sound of cracking bone and ripping flesh filled his ears, as Patrick's head was ripped in half at the jawbone, and his lifeless body was sent crashing down to the concrete below. Dave flinched as he was hit with a gruesome spray of blood and flesh. He wiped his hand over his face, which was caked in horror and disbelief. He felt a sudden shock rush through him as the forklift slowly sputtered out. The fading of its headlights to darkness was met with soft chimes of music, coming from right behind him.
Hey guys and ladies, thanks for watching. If you want me to tell your story, no. Send your story or creepypasta to the email in the description. My shirts, Patreon, Instagram, and Twitter are down there too. Anything you do to help support the channel is much appreciated. Likes and up. So I'm back from outer space. And I missed you guys. Did you miss me? Alright, cool. Well, be good to animals, even people. Soon.
Ja, snämar, bärksbes, hörs.